Well, it's time for part number 5 of Mini Bike Rising. So in this segment, it's all about the engine and associated hookups, so I can take this thing for a ride, which will in essence finish the mock-up phase. Now, if you noticed in the last video, I had given up on this particular motor, but there's been a turn of events. A friend of mine who commented on YouTube, Jeep 2003, suggested that I drill and tap the crank and use a bolt to install the clutch. And that's exactly what I did. You know, for some reason I was under the impression that cranks were hardened and you couldn't drill them. I don't know why I thought that, but it drilled easy, tapped pretty easy, and I went down to Ace Hardware and got a grade 8 bolt. So that's pretty much ready to go. I have a couple little segments to show how I accomplished that. So I decided to use a 1/4-20 tap, and there's the end of the crankshaft was center drilled for when it was originally on the lathe during manufacture. So I referred to my chart here, and a 1/4-20 thread requires a drill that is a number 6, which I just happen to have in my drill index. So I'm going to proceed to drill it out with a number 6 and then tap it with a 1/4-20. It's cutting nicely. And I'm probably 3/8 of an inch in by now. Got to go a little bit deeper. So the drilling went well. I went in about 3/4 of an inch, I'd say. And now I've got the tap about halfway in, so it's going well. Well, the bolt threaded in there pretty good. So I'm pretty happy camper right now. Okay, that wasn't too tough, actually. I'm getting pretty good at putting the engine on and taking the engine off this edger. Oh, jeez. So there's a number of fairly simple little chores I have to accomplish here. I need to hook up the throttle, bolt the engine in, hook up the chain, put on the rear sprocket on the rear tire. Still haven't got around to that. Hook up the kill switch. That'll be fun stuff to do. And this is the first time that I've really got a good look at this engine in the frame, and it fits just perfect. I mean, just clears the top bar there. And I'm going to paint it white, but I'll do that after I'm done with the mock-up phase and testing, once I take it all apart. So I'm not bummed anymore. All right, let's get to it. Well, I'd like to put this sprocket on as the first chore. If you remember, the other one I had was bent. So this is the new one. It's drilled, and I have to take out the axle, put in the spacers, get it put back on. I'm doing that first because then I'm going to set the motor in there with the bolts in it and see if the sprockets line up. Okay. Guess there's just no graceful way to do that. Okay. So I have all the components here. These spacers have a little notch in them that registers against this part of the hub. And then these are 5/16 bolts that thread into an aluminum boss, so I have some anti-seize on there. So I'll just loosely put these together. When I took apart the other one, these holes were a little on the tight side, and I think maybe during the tightening down process is when it got bent. So these fit better, and I just have to basically get it started and tighten it down evenly would be the desired effect. Yeah, that's feeling better already from what originally came on it. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so I want to go down fairly evenly with this. I don't want to put any uneven tension on it if I can avoid it. Yeah, I'd say that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I got to put it back on the bike. Okay, so this should be interesting to watch. I have to feed the sprocket into the caliper and get the spacers in. So I could use a third hand. Trying to get that. Trying to get the pads apart. Alright, well, if it works the first time, it'll be a miracle. Okay, well that went into the caliper, so that's good. So now these have to go in there. Along with the washer. Come on now, be good to me. Okay. Alright, that should go easier now. Well, that's definitely better. Okay. Put that on loosely for now. Okay, so I have to adjust the brake. So I have to tighten up the 2 bolts for the brake caliper, and then I might have to shim it. I don't know, we'll see once I get it tighter. If it's gonna be within tolerance to adjust. I kind of saw the writing on the wall on this one. I'm going to have to work on how this caliper is installed because it's slightly out of line and the thickness of the pads. So maybe you can see it here. Let's see, it's not lined up true within the groove. It's way to one side. Well, anyway, suffice to say, this whole thing's got to come off, and I've got to work on the tolerances and just dial it in, because it's been modified to work in this scenario, and it just hasn't been refined. The installation hasn't been refined. So now that I got a fresh sprocket, and I can see what I can do with it. So I'm I'm going to take it apart. Well, this will probably be a little bit of work. One of the first things I want to do is machine this rear face back here where the bolt goes, or the nut goes, because I want the bolts to come in from the outside in with the nut on the inside. That way I could service the brake while the rear tire is on. See, I swapped them around. The nut is on the inside and it's hitting the tire. So that's because there's this counter bore here to accept this bolt head that's too small for this nut. So I'm going to put this on the mill and mill it a little bit so it create some clearance, and I might have to shorten the bolt a little. But I think for long term that'll be nice having these in this configuration going in. All right. Okay, that should work pretty good. They're the same depth. Okay, so here's the relief cut. And then the nut will fit in there. I'm picking up about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. Then I'll want right now this bolt will be long, so I'll need to shorten these. After quite a bit of messing around, I have this thing installed and adjusted. So if I pull on the brake, I got brakes. It's got a little bit of drag, but that'll just have to work itself out. But brake works good. Okay. On to the engine. So let's talk about how I'm going to install this clutch. So, friend of mine, Jeep 2003 on YouTube, he said drill and tap the crank, so I did that. Got me a grade 8 bolt. So I got plenty of thread there. Got a washer. So I have to put the key in, but my plan is to slip it on there, and then I found this steel spacer. It happens to be 1/4 inch inside, and it's about 3/4 long. So I'm going to use it to take up the missing shaft. On my lathe, I'm going to face this off so it's the right length. Now I really don't need that, but that'll give a place for the set screws to go against, and then of course it'll be a bolt and a washer. The bolt would hold it on, but I'll just go the extra mile. Plus it gives me a reason to run my lathe. So I'm going to do that next. I used a red marker to establish how much I have to take off. Okay, on to the lathe. Okay, so I got to chuck this thing up in here. Alright, there we go. That should be the right length and do the job. Could take off just a skosh more. I want it flush or slightly below. Alright, but you can see the theory. I'm getting there. Okay. Well, I think I'm down to one thing to get this thing rideable, and that's the throttle cable connection. I finished putting the clutch on, so that's real nice. I'm happy with that. I put the chain on. I just loosely mocked it up. Got the bolts in there. And so that's all in line, working good. I got the brake working good. So now I just did a quick mock-up. So now I have to take it apart, get the motor out of there, and try to figure out how I'm going to connect the throttle cable. Okay, I need to figure out how I'm going to modify all this to make this work. You know, here's the cable coming in. Right there's the wire. So the simple connection is right to the throttle bracket with the return spring, and that's ultimately what I'll do. But right now, it's connected to this plate. So that grounds it out, so it stops the motor, which I don't need that because I'll use a kill switch. I'll hook it to the wire that goes to that. And then this is full throttle. Now when it's at full throttle, it pulls on the governor spring, which ultimately controls the throttle plate here. So the governor is going to have to go. Okay, so here's the governor. You can see how it functions when you pull the throttle. There's full throttle. Pulls on the governor. So I'm going to bend these tabs, take this part off, these springs, and this wire. That's my first order of business. Well, there's everything that's associated with the governor. Alright, so I have it off of there. Here's the all-important kill wire. Right there, that black wire. That's what I'll hook to the kill button. Okay, so now let's see what I can do with this. Okay, now I'm getting into the harder part where I got to think about it. Fortunately, yeah, this is good. This unit, this piece, installs on the bottom here, so if I cut the top half of this off, I still retain the mounting tabs. I hate cutting it up, but if this is going to be the motor I use, I guess it'll always be on this mini bike. Okay. I'm pretty close to cutting this, but I'm still thinking about it. I'm sure some of you guys have come across this before and rigged up some kind of cable or little rod or something. I could, if I had a little mounting tab, I could have a little lever. I'll think about it a minute before I go hacking on that plate there. Here's where the cable attaches, the housing, and then here's the cable coming up to the cable stop, and you got the spring. And then got it hooked to the, so that's working and I'm getting full throttle. So I guess I'm happy with that for now. We'll see if it holds up. Okay, so then I put this plate back on. So now the choke works as it did when it was on the edger. I cut off this top part, left this little piece. So, let's see here. This goes on the top here. Ah, crap. So this gets in the way of that. That's too tall. It's always something. I think I have this throttle figured out. You'll see the cable there running down over here to the engine. Let me set it up here and show you what's going on. Okay, so this is my second attempt at getting this right. The first one, this was too tall, and truthfully I didn't like the angle of attack of the cable. I just didn't care for it. So I realized I had to extend this arm, and I took a little piece of aluminum that was easy to manipulate, and it helped me find the sweet spot where this cable could be right in line and fully actuate. Then I came up with this spring attached to, this was an existing bracket that actually attached to a spring on this side, but I modified it, drilled a hole in it. So now it actuates. I guess I need to adjust the cable a little, but there's full stop, full throttle. And that spring is stout enough that this goes back to stop. So that's nice. And then I temporarily rigged up the kill button here to the wire. I have extra wire hanging out here I have to trim off, but I'm proving the theory. So now I'm going to put the air cleaner back on and fire this thing up. See how it works. Okay. Okay, let's see if we can get her to run. Alright, you want to be that way? A little starting fluid. Well, that was a milestone. Engine's running now, and the stop kill switch works. Throttle works good. So, geez, I think I can put it in the bike and take it for a ride. Woo! All right. Okay, that's next. Okay, I'm making my final connections before I put it in the bike. I tightened everything up real good. I rigged up the kill switch here with a solderless connector, and I decided this is where I'm going to install it. So now I can put the air cleaner back on, put it in the bike. Okay. The engine is loosely bolted in now, and you can see the throttle cable set up. Could be just a hair longer, but it'll do. Functions nice. Stop button. Okay, so now I got to do the chain, and I think it's ready. Well, I got it fired up and ready to take it for its first ride. So let's see how she does. Takes a little getting used to, but that is fun. It's almost dark here in the cycle cart / mini bike workshop, but I wanted to get this test ride in tonight, and it went very well. I'm pleased with the performance of the bike. Motor runs good, brakes work good. It has plenty of power. So I think this will end the 5th video in the series. Moving on to video number 6, which will be painting, taking it apart and painting it. So looking forward to that.
West Coast kid.
Thanks to all you tubes out there for watching my channel. I sure appreciate it. See you next time.